What is up, everyone, and welcome to the first ever long-form video on this channel. Quick note, I got the inspiration for this video from seeing videos of people trying to 3D print the largest possible benchy, and naturally, I wanted to do one of these challenges. There's just one problem. I'm kind of broke and don't have the money to pay for that amount of filament. Anyways, that's why today, I'm doing the opposite by pushing the limits of my printer and trying to 3D print the world's smallest benchy. Before we begin, let me quickly go over the 3 rules of this challenge. Number 1. It has to be a scaled version of the original benchy model we all know and love. Number 2. Once the object's no longer recognizable as a benchy, it doesn't count, which basically just means I can't do this. Okay, I'm just scaled as down to 1%, hit print, and done. And there you have it, the world's smallest benchy. And number 3, it must be printed with PLA on my bamboo lab image. Without further ado, let's get on. Just for reference, here's what a normal sized benchy looks like. You can clearly see the lettering on the bottom and the back, and it measures 60 millimeters long, or about 2 inches. We'll be using this original benchy throughout the video to compare sizes as we try to go smaller and smaller. First up, the 75% scale benchy. This was really just a test print. Now I figured that if this didn't work, things were going to get rough very quickly. But honestly, it printed great, and all the finer details are still here, including the lettering. Compared to the original, the benchy is now just 4.5 centimeters long. So far so good. But next, I jumped into the slicer and scaled the model down to 50%. And again, I was pretty surprised at how well this printed. We've mostly lost lettering on the back, but overall the print quality is still excellent, which is way better than I expected at the start of this challenge. Before we go any further, make sure to stick around, because by the end of this video, we're going to make the benchy more than 2 times smaller than it is now. But now, it's time for the first real challenge, the 35% scale benchy. Right now we're about halfway through the print, things are still looking good.
A few moments later.
Alright, so here's the 35% scale benchy. At this point, the model is just over 2 centimeters long from front to back. And we're definitely losing some of the finer details, but overall, there are still very few imperfections. At this point, I decided to push things even further and try a 25% scale benchy, which is 4 times smaller than the original. At this size, all of the finer details are completely gone, but you can still tell that this is a benchy. Even after seeing those issues, I wasn't ready to stop yet. So next up, I scaled the model down to 20% to cent it. 14 minutes and 0 grams of filament, the 20% benchy is done. And this is where the problem started to show. I'm currently printing with a 0.4mm nozzle, and at this scale, some of the thinner features, like the walls of the cabin, are just too narrow for the nozzle to print properly. The printer physically can't lay down plastic in sections that thin. The result? Missing walls, rough edges, and a benchy that was still recognizable, but definitely struggling. It's definitely close to the edge of what I'd consider acceptable, but according to the rules, it still counts. Now, for the final test. I decided to scale the benchy down to just 15% in the slicer and hit print. I'm actually going to be very surprised if this works. So the benchy just finished printing, and the result? Well, it's interesting. This is the 15% scale benchy, and at this point, you can barely recognize it. The print quality here is rough. Many of the features have completely merged together, and some parts are just completely gone. The entire upper section of the cabin has disappeared, and even the upper part of the hull. I'd say you can still slightly recognize this as a benchy, but I'm going to keep going to try to make this work. What I found was I was actually able to go to the slicer and manually decrease the width of the line that the nozzle extrudes, which allowed the printer to extrude into these narrow sections, and in theory would allow us to print an even smaller benchy. So, with nothing else to do, I hit print and could only watch what happened. And amazingly, by changing those slicer values, I was able to print what I believe is probably the world's smallest benchy. This thing was so small that I lost it and actually had to print another one. I'm honestly very impressed that the printer was able to handle this, but unfortunately I think this is the limit for me. So that's gonna wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to comment, feedback, and suggestions, as this is my first video and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. But that's all for today.